Forgive me, Stephen. I'll try with the second foot not to accomplish something bad.
Okay. So hello and welcome to King Street Commons. I'm Jennifer Hawkins, Executive Director of One Neighborhood Builders. Governor McKee, we're so grateful to host you here. You were here at the ribbon cutting back in July, and to come back once again to make this special announcement, we're grateful for that. Thank you very much for your commitment to housing and your collaboration with Speaker Shekarchi and Senate President Dominic Ruggiero to invest more money in housing and preserving affordable housing. I'd also like to welcome Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos, Commerce Secretary Stephen Pryor, Deputy Secretary of Commerce for Housing Josh Saul, Speaker Joe Shekarchi, Senator Megan Coleman, and Rhode Island Housing Executive Director Carol Ventura. Without further ado, Governor McKee, we all look forward to hearing from you about the state's latest investment.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, it's great to be here, Jen. Thank you so much for your work. And it was a little warmer when we were here at the ribbon cutting, if you remember. And now we have the snow on the ground, but the announcements are very important to make, and keeps us nice and warm when we do good things, right? So good morning, and be here at One Neighborhood Builders. I want to recognize that my colleagues in government are here today with me, Lieutenant Governor, who actually represented this district as a city councilwoman and president of the council at that time in Providence, so welcome. Our speaker, who is a champion of housing in the General Assembly. Moments like this don't always happen where everybody's aligned on a particular topic that is so important, but thank you, Speaker, for your leadership. And I also want to thank the Senate President, who could not be here today. I did text him before I came, and he's doing good, so that's a good thing to hear. Secretary Pryor and his team, and along with Deputy Secretary Saul, I think this is your first public event, in a press conference, and we're looking forward to hearing from you more and more and more as we, dig in and take care of this important business in terms of housing. So, and of course the whole team at the Rhode Island Housing. Thank you, Carol. I want to start by recognizing the General Assembly for approving our Rhode Island Rebounds economic down payment proposal very early in the session, and that gets us here today. This $119 million in immediate relief and investments in our children, our families, our small businesses, and affordable housing. That's very important that we were able to hit the ground running so early in the session. So, Speaker, thank you, and Senate President, thank you so much as well. Yesterday, we were able to open our first Rhode Island Rebounds down payment program, grants for small businesses. Since the application portal opened yesterday at 3:30, Commerce has already received 700 applications on that small business program. Again, thank you, Speaker, for getting that out now in a time frame that we really need it. We all know that if we want Rhode Island to be an attractive place to live, work, and raise a family, we must address availability and quality of housing. That means everything from providing supports to those experiencing homelessness, to increasing affordable, low-income, to ensuring we build more workforce housing, middle-class housing, and fair market value housing. Rhode Island has historically underinvested in housing. We are experiencing a housing shortage in part because too few units have been built over the last several years. And I mentioned at a State of the State, in 2020, we built fewer units per capita than any other state in New England. Now we have made some progress. Last year, together with the General Assembly, we created a permanent funding stream for affordable housing and even created the state's first Deputy Housing Secretary position. And together we can do much more. That's why I'm pleased to be here today. Less than a month after getting approval from the General Assembly, we are rolling out the first housing program of my administration's under the Rhode Island Rebounds package. And we know that the housing is so important to many people here today. Senator Coleman included. Thank you so much for your leadership on many of the issues that we've been addressing over the last year. Today we're announcing that $12 million in funding will be available in the form of grants to municipalities and for-profit or nonprofit developers for the acquisition of properties that will be developed as affordable and supportive housing. Our team at Rhode Island Housing will be administrating this program. On behalf of the state and Secretary Pryor, will be up here shortly to provide more details on the program. Now, our Rhode Island Rebounds and Down Payment is meant to provide immediate relief, but we also need to invest for the long term. That's why in my budget, the 2023 budget proposals calls for investing $250 million to make a once-in-a-generation investment in our state's housing stock. The proposal that was sent to the General Assembly will not only create and preserve thousands of units of housing, but it will also transform blighted properties, strengthen communities, and create good-paying construction jobs in the process. I know that together we can make it happen. And just like I mentioned in the State of the State, how can we expect our sons and daughters to live in the state of Rhode Island and stay here unless they could afford to live here? I'll leave it there for now and just conclude by saying I'm excited. I'm truly excited about the opportunity before us, and I'm thankful for all of us, my administration, the General Assembly, our partners all coming together to tackle this crucial issue at the moment in time that we're living through right now, where we're all being pressed by multiple factors, health factors, economic factors right now, school issues, and the list is long, but we're up to the task. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our Lieutenant Governor, Sabina Matos. Please come on up and say hello.
Thank you, Governor.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning and welcome all to the mighty Ward 15. And I know I sound like maybe a little bit biased, but this is a wonderful community. We have wonderful people that live here, wonderful families, great parks, and it's great businesses that call Olneyville home. So I'm so glad that you're here. I want to thank the Governor McKee, for his commitment to housing. And I want to thank the Speaker Shikashi, because you have made housing a priority and you have made it a real priority and have been putting resources towards housing. So thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to be here with Senator Coleman also. Thank you. And Councilman Vargas is here also, the councilman who is the current councilperson for this area. It's truly a pleasure to be here and talk about housing. As I was coming in, I was telling everyone I love housing events. Housing events are full of energy, positive things, and I want to thank each one of you that make this possible. Rhode Island Housing for your commitment, Carol, to making sure that we have the resources to transform neighborhoods like this one, like Olneyville. I have witnessed the transformation that had happened in this community, and it has been thanks to the investment in housing and affordable housing, working with Rhode Island Housing, working with One Neighborhood Builder, with Rhode Island List. It has been amazing to see how this neighborhood has been transformed. When I used to be on the board of Olneyville Housing, now One Neighborhood Builder, one of my favorite things to do was to see the before and after pictures. It's just, we should have just a display in the website of all of the before and after, because if you don't see the actual transformation that took place, you don't understand the impact that is having in the community. So make sure you look at those. I want to be brief because I want you to hear from Speaker Shikashi. He has been doing so much to make sure that we make housing a priority. We have talked for many years that housing should be a priority, and it never happened. And with this leadership team that we have right now at the state, with the governor, the speaker, and the president, it is possible. So I want you to hear from him in his commitment to housing. And before I go, I have to tell you, before you leave the neighborhood, make sure you stop by La Lupita or Family Cake and get some food. I'm giving you the inside hook, the inside scoop in the neighborhood. But I honestly want to introduce the Speaker Shikashi and thank him for his leadership and his support.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Want to acknowledge Senator Coleman here, representing the Senate. Obviously, our Commerce Secretary, our brand new Deputy Commerce Secretary for Housing, Josh Saul, who I finally met in person today instead of by Zoom. Obviously, Carol Ventura and all the great work she does with her team at Rhode Island Housing. Jennifer Hawkins, the Executive Director of Neighborhood Buildings. and also representing the Senate, but also the councilman in the area, Oscar Vargas. So Councilman Vargas, nice to see you. And thank you for all coming today. And this is a beautiful event. I don't want to reiterate all the points that the governor said and the lieutenant governor said, but yes, we have committed to housing. It has been my #1 priority since I've become Speaker. I'm proud of the relationship I have with the governor and the Senate president. And as the lieutenant governor said, those things just don't happen. It takes collaborative effort. It takes compromise. It takes working together to find the common goal and the common good. And this project, the way we're standing today, is the common good. And what I can say about this project, meets all the amenities of today's affordable housing. It's got built-in daycare. It's got restaurants and shops that are within walking distance. It's in a neighborhood that needs it and wants it. And for that, all I can say is I would hope that we can somehow bring this to Warwick. I'd love to duplicate one or more of these in the fine city of Warwick because there's a great need for it, and I appreciate that. Since we've taken over in the House and my leadership team, we've worked very hard for a couple of programs the governor said regarding the allocation for the Housing Production Fund. We funded that for the first time ever. We created a permanent housing stream, but also we created a program called Pay for Success, which will help chronic homelessness in Rhode Island. And that program is just now getting started. We authorized that July 1st. It's taken some time to come up and running, but I know with Josh's leadership at the housing czar, as the housing czar, we will make that program a reality, and that will hopefully end homelessness for people, and it provides a lot of wraparound services. So I'm proud of Representative Kazar, who was the author of that, and my leader, Chris Blazajewski, who worked to bring that over the finish line, and that's part of the budget. It's only when we work together. In projects like this and with the leaders together that we all share a common good is that we provide safe, clean, affordable housing for Rhode Islanders. And let me tell you something. Affordable housing is good economic development. Because as the governor said in the State of the State, we want our families in Rhode Island who children graduating from schools have a place to live. But more importantly, when companies are looking to relocate to Rhode Island, they look at a lot of things. Very high on the list is affordable housing. Is there enough housing stock available? I believe all housing is good housing, and we need to do more, not just here in Providence, not just affordable, all across the gamut in the state. And our cities and towns have to do their share, and you're going to see some incentives for them to do it, and quite frankly, some penalties if they don't do it as well. So we've talked about the talk for a long time. It's time to stop putting our words to actions and getting it done. So with that, I want to thank you. I want to recognize the next speaker, a good friend, a champion in the Senate, Senator McKee. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Speaker. It's great to be here with everybody today. I want to co-sign a couple of things that the speaker just said. First of all, I also want one of these in Pawtucket, or something similar. We are a community who has been feeling the pinch on housing and lack of affordable housing for some time now. So I'm really excited to see the energy gaining here. The other thing that the speaker mentioned, which I think is really worth reiterating, is that the data is now unequivocal. If you build good housing, your economic development follows, and they have done research like this in places like San Francisco, where sometimes the housing gets a little out of control there. But this is a strategy that has been proven as something that, in order to invest in our own economic well-being. So anyway, I'm really honored to be here on behalf of President today, as well as my colleagues throughout the Senate. And again, alluding to comments from previous speakers, this last year, the General Assembly has made really historic progress on issues of housing. This obviously includes the dedicated revenue stream for affordable housing, but we also removed a number of barriers to accessing existing housing, including removing some language that permitted legal discrimination, for instance, against people who held housing choice vouchers, formerly known as Section 8. So the actions that we took help really support our long-term trajectory towards developing a state where everybody who wants a home has a home. But we know that housing insecurity is real. It remains a really present piece of life for many within our communities. And good housing is the foundation to good everything else, right? Including for our children, the ability to do well in school, the ability to thrive professionally, the ability to quarantine when that is warranted. And more than 35% of the households in this state spend upwards of 30% of their income on housing. That just makes them what we call cost burden, right? So they're paying way too much for their housing. And today's announcement is a really important part of our ongoing commitment to address this housing crisis. The $12 million here will help our state realize sorely needed developments. This is really exciting. And it'll help us ensure that Rhode Island families can invest in their own home. This is a really important part of building intergenerational wealth and also closing the wealth gap, right? It will ensure that everyone who calls Rhode Island home has a home. And so I'm really grateful for all the work of our partners and our colleagues. Let's get to work. I'm now pleased to introduce Secretary Pryor. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Conlon, thank you for all of your advocacy and hard work on the housing front. It's truly terrific, and thank you through you to the Senate President. I'm very grateful for all the work and the leadership that has led to this day, starting with Governor McKee. Governor, thank you for prioritizing housing and working in tandem with, of course, the Lieutenant Governor, Sabina Matos, and Speaker Shekarshi. Your position on housing has been clear from the start, and the fact that you have set forth an agenda for housing is truly exemplary. So we're truly grateful working with the Senate President that we're at this point. We are getting started in earnest, thanks to your incredible efforts. Governor, we know that we have one of the strongest economic recoveries in the nation. It's one of those things that we ought to say frequently, and let's remind ourselves, we're in the top 5 in accordance with a key index for our economic recovery in the whole country, and we've remained at number 1 for the strength of our economic recovery for months and months. This is outstanding. And that's the place we want to be, not a laggard, but a leader coming out of a downturn for once. But we know that there is an uneven recovery across the whole country. That's why we're thankful, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Speaker, Senate President, and General Assembly, that we have a small business grant program that just got operational yesterday. Message to small businesses, please apply by the 15th. If you're a small business that's been impacted by COVID, we want to get you your checks as soon as possible. The other point to be observed is that a strong economy can have unintentional negative consequences in the housing market where it causes a squeeze. And because we do have one of the strongest recoveries in the country, and because people are looking for housing in the midst of a pandemic where periodically people are staying home, and because we have an inflow of residents from out of state, a good thing, but still an exacerbating factor, we have a scarcity of housing for people at every purchase price and rental level, and it especially impacts those with the least income who are searching for affordable housing. So we've got to do more. I want to note some points that Governor McKee ably made. I want to underscore them and say that our production is lagging. So if you take a look at our rate of building and refurbishing homes, it's only half of what it was in 1991, and that means our pace is significantly lagging demand. And according to the most recent Housing Fact Book, which looks back at the year 2020, we have the lowest per capita state investment in New England in terms of financial investment. Massachusetts invests 6+ times what we do, Connecticut and Vermont over 4 times what we do. I say this to say, thank goodness we're getting started in earnest, thanks to the Governor, the Speaker, and the Senate President. We really are making meaningful investments, and you're going to hear from Deputy Secretary Saul about the $250 million that Governor McKee is proposing to invest in housing thanks to the American Rescue Plan. What I'm going to do now is just talk to you about the program itself, site acquisition. It may be obvious, but let's say it out loud. We need to lay the groundwork for the projects that are yet to come. In order to lay the groundwork, we need to identify the sites, acquire them, and prepare them for development. Since we are aiming to outpace ourselves, we need to do that step. We need to do it first, and we need to do it with resources. So that's what today represents, taking that very important initial step of getting those sites acquired, secured, and ready to go. There's $12 million in this program. We will offer up to a $1 million grant per applicant. We will request a 30-year deed restriction at 80% of AMI or an equivalent commitment. That's to ensure affordability. and that's area median income. The sites can be vacant or can already contain commercial or residential uses, but they must be the kinds of uses that can be converted for affordable housing purposes. Developers, municipalities, housing authorities, and others may apply. The RFP, the request for proposals for this purpose, will be issued by Rhode Island Housing, with big thanks to Carol Ventura, will be issued next week. And the applications will be received on a rolling basis until funds are obligated. So I want to thank Carol Ventura even more than that quick reference for her continuing leadership at Rhode Island Housing. She is enabling us to operationalize these good ideas, make them a reality. And the entire housing team, including Mike Tondra, is doing just an incredible job. Now, Josh Saul. We are so grateful, Governor, that we have had the opportunity to appoint a Housing Deputy Secretary, and we are so grateful, Speaker Shekarshi, that you created this position in the budget and charged us with getting the filling of that position done. Josh Saul, as you all may know at this point, attended university here in our state. In the course of being at Brown, he volunteered with the Housing Action Coalition of Rhode Island. Many of you know this organization. And he went and worked at the Office of Housing Preservation and Development. It's a city department in New York City known as HPD, and distinguished himself there, and then has come back to help us coordinate. So Josh Saul, please tell us more about where we stand. Come on up. Deputy Secretary Josh Saul.
Good morning. It's great to be here, and thank you, Secretary Pryor, for the introduction. This is my first event since Governor McKee named me Deputy Secretary for Housing. I've been on the job now for 4 weeks, and let me just tell you, the excitement, the energy that I've encountered from Rhode Islanders across the state, across different sectors, has been infectious. There's a wide recognition in the state from all the people I've spoken to that there's a tremendous and that we have a tremendous opportunity ahead of us. On that note, the governor has made a commitment, a very historic commitment, with his recent budget proposal to allocate over $250 million towards housing, and housing that serves Rhode Islanders across income level and throughout our state. We have a lieutenant governor also who has made housing her top issue. She clearly recognizes and throughout her career has worked on how housing outcomes, what kind of effect it has on ordinary Rhode Islanders' lives. We have a speaker who has made housing also a priority and has challenged me personally. Even in our Zoom call, he says, we need to work with the different stakeholders and we need to go big. This is not the time to just do the small work here. We really have to make some progress in housing. We also have a Senate president and senators like Senator Coleman, who I spoke to just a couple weeks ago, and really understand how the policies, the programs that we're putting together effectuate real change for our constituents and Rhode Islanders across the state. And last but not least, we have partners, great partners in the development community, like One Neighborhood Builders, who are on the front lines here, doing the important mission-driven work that provides the much-needed affordable housing. That said, we need to get this done. Communities need to come together. We need to have the developers, the landlords, government, labor, local nonprofit organizations, all need to step up and create a better housing future for Rhode Islanders across the state. We've had a lot of speakers today, so I'll keep the rest of my remarks brief, but I did want to talk about the opportunity ahead of us with the governor's housing proposal that he included in his budget. Governor McKee has proposed $250 million to be invested in housing and homelessness assistance. This includes $90 million in project financing to create and preserve approximately 1,500 affordable housing units for households earning up to 80% of the area median income. $25 million for the acquisition of properties, what we're speaking about today, to be redeveloped into affordable and supportive housing, as well as an additional $10 million to increase developers' ability to hit the ground running by facilitating the important pre-development work that needs to be completed to start construction. There's also $20 million to support housing for Rhode Island families who make insufficient income to secure housing near or in our communities, but who would otherwise not qualify for other forms of subsidized housing. There's also $25 million to tackle blighted properties and redevelop these properties for the express purpose of creating housing and community commercial facilities that serve our communities. The governor has also proposed an allocation of $50 million to provide up to $17,500 in down payment assistance to first-time homebuyers and $21.5 million to assist individuals and families experiencing homelessness and housing instability. And lastly, the governor's plan also includes $5 million to increase shelter capacity and other solutions for individuals and families that are experiencing homelessness, because we cannot leave our most vulnerable brothers, sisters, parents, grandparents behind. Now, there's a lot to be excited about with this proposal, and I look forward to working with the General Assembly, my colleagues in the administration, and the stakeholders on these proposals, and if passed by the General Assembly, to get them implemented. This isn't just good for families and individuals needing access to stable housing. It's good for our economy. Now, thank you, and with that, I'll turn it over to Carol Ventura for a brief update on Rent Relief Rhode Island and the new home ownership program. And I just have to say, Carol has been a great partner getting me up to date and getting me running on all the projects here in Rhode Island as I start my new position. So thank you all.
Thanks, Josh. COVID has really emphasized how important affordable housing is to the health and economic well-being of Rhode Islanders. Over the past year, we've been proud to partner with the state and to deploy over $100 million in rent and utility assistance to keep more than 16,000 Rhode Islanders stably housed. And now with the newly released Homeowner Assistance Fund, more than 1,900 applications have been submitted to Rhode Island Housing by homeowners impacted by COVID and seeking assistance for mortgage and utility arrearages. So these programs are critical to keep families from being displaced, but it's clear that what we need most as a state is affordable homes for Rhode Islanders. That's why I'm thrilled to be here with the governor, the lieutenant governor, the speaker, and senator as they announce the launch of a program to support the creation of affordable and supportive housing across Rhode Island. I want to thank our partner, Jen Hawkins, for inviting us to announce this program here at King Street Commons, surrounded by affordable housing. And this affordable housing was acquired through a very similar acquisition program at Rhode Island Housing, and it provided One Neighborhood Builders the critical time that they needed to assemble the funding resources to put this project into productive use. And we'll replicate what's been done here with the funding made available by the governor and the General Assembly from the state's allocation of ARPA funds. I want to thank Governor McKee for his leadership, for prioritizing the use of ARPA funds for housing development. King Street Commons is a key example of the critical role this funding can play in securing properties for development in an extremely competitive housing market, and closing financing gaps for the actual creation of the end housing. We're excited to announce the rollout of this program and look forward to joining Governor McKee and the Speaker, the General Assembly leaders at future groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings for development supported by this important program. Thank you, Governor. Jen.
So thank you. I couldn't have imagined 2+ years ago having this press announcement located here in this building. Never in my wildest dreams would we be allocating hopefully $250 million, at least $250 million towards housing. It is unprecedented, and we've heard so much in the news recently regarding housing choice vouchers that can't be placed into homes. That is appalling. That there has been a lottery ticket won, yet people are not able to place them. The solution to that is production. We need to accelerate production so that we can damper rising rents and allow for families to have the type of quality affordable housing that the 30 home renters are able to enjoy here at King Street Commons. As Carol mentioned, we were able to purchase this land due to a land bank loan. in this hot real estate market, if you don't have opportunity to have fast capital, you're going to lose out. Gone are the days when property here in Olneyville was up for grabs and there was no competition. Those days are absolutely gone, and being able to have expedient, flexible capital is essential. And so we really applaud the fact that the $12 million is going to be made available, and we'll certainly try to acquire some property in Warwick Speaker. We agree with that expansion strategy. So I am delighted that you all are here, and would offer you a tour of the child care classrooms. I would give you a tour of the apartments, but they released the second that the general contractor turned over the keys to us, speaking to the incredible demand for housing. Thank you very much.
With that, I mean, I was a long speaking for it. We can take a couple questions if our friends in the media have them. Sabrina, say something in Spanish. Real quick.
Actually, can I put you the phone?
Sí, si quieren
Okay.
también.
So actually, Josh habla español. So así que él puede darte un update on housing. ¿No?
Sí, es mi primer idioma. Yo soy de Argentina, mi familia de Argentina y de Guatemala. Estoy muy contento de estar aquí. Y este evento representa una oportunidad para crear más vivienda asequible que va a servir a todos los habitantes aquí en Rhode Island, en Providence, pero por todo el estado, porque la importancia de vivienda para familias, para individuales, a todos niveles de ingresos, es muy importante. Es importante, como han hablado todos aquí, para la salud, para la educación y para la economía. Y si no construimos más viviendas, si no empezamos con estos programas, con todo el trabajo que han hecho nuestro gobernador y todos los otros representantes del gobierno, no vamos a poder crear esa vivienda. Así que estoy muy contento aquí, estar con todos nuestros colegas y para construir más vivienda por todo Rhode Island. ¿Alguna otra pregunta? I reiterated a lot of what was already said here. We have really just amazing representatives here, and we hope to really kick off some great new projects through this acquisition fund.
How soon?
So the RFP will be released next week, and the funds are going to be committed on a rolling basis. So if you're listening to this now, whether you're a developer, a municipality, or housing authority, get started. Start thinking about how you can use some of these plots of land, whether they're vacant or perhaps they have blighted or property that's not being used, how we can mobilize that land to create the much-needed affordable units that we need here in Rhode Island.
Yeah, Governor, when we're talking about this development, it's obviously going to take some time before people are able to move into that affordable housing. What do you say to people who right now are struggling to find affordable housing? What options are available to them?
Yeah, so I would be certainly reaching out to Jen and reaching out to Rhode Island Housing as well as our office. So what is ever available right now, we're certainly want to make sure we match up as best we can. But that's what about this investment that we're talking about both today and long term as we work through the General Assembly session, and our proposal is really to leverage these dollars. That's it's a $250 million ask, but we can leverage those to significantly more. Josh can kind of speak to that, but what we're saying is if we can be helpful today, we want to be helpful, and you should reach out so we can identify who needs help. And then long term, go to ri2030.com if you're interested in the state of Rhode Island and put your thoughts in there. Stefan's got that set up in a way that is really important, and housing is a big piece of our Rhode Island 2030 plan, which the Lieutenant Governor has worked on as well.
Anybody else? Thank you, everybody, for coming out.